We have breaking news as now that the Toronto Maple Leafs have hired head coach Craig Berube, more and more reports are starting to come out revealing that not only is the core four over, but changes at this point are imminent and are certainly going to happen. So to break down that report and discuss what some of those changes could be according to some rumors on this episode. Before we do, if you're a part of the 80% who are not subscribed and you want to help us towards our goal of 10,000 subscribers, we're making multiple videos a day for you guys. There's tons of news coming out. We have the press conference in a couple days on Tuesday, 3 days I guess at this point of time recording. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. It would mean the world to Darius and I as we approach that huge milestone. Darius, more to discuss today. Obviously, the Leafs hired Craig Berube. We knew, we've been saying it in so many videos now, that once the Leafs hire coach Craig Berube, whoever the coach was, which was Berube at this point, that moves were going to come. And now more and more reports are starting to kind of coincide with this, and stuff is starting to make a little bit more sense. So let's just get right into it. So this was Chris Johnson on the Overdrive show saying the Leafs will still look to make a change to the core four even though they have hired a new coach. Running it back is over. Chris Johnson is obviously pretty in tune with these things, and this is what we were hoping for. We were hoping that they would make not only one change, which is Craig Berube, but that they wouldn't stop there and be complacent with the fact and be happy with the fact that, okay, one change was done. They understand that the core four still needs to change. Berube can't change the players. He can only change the mindset of them. And I think that the Mitch Marner might just be on his way out, which we've known, but it's becoming more and more imminent by each running day, especially now that the head coach has been revealed and hired.
Yeah, we know it's a bad mix of players. It simply does not work. So it looks like they're going to move on. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to. They're just going to look at the option of trying to, because the contract situation and the no movement clauses and all that fun stuff. And we're going to have another video on specifically Mitch Marner and what that might look like. And he might want to move on himself. But anyway, go check out that video. But I think it's really interesting. It's going to be really an interesting summer for the Leafs because Berube is a no-nonsense coach. So I wonder if they have to move on from a couple players here, not just one of the core four, but a couple players. And it looks like the idea is absolutely dead. They might be aggressive in this way in trying to move on from the core four, because if they're not, they're going to go into next season. They're going to have to get creative, because then they'll just go into next season, same old song and dance, and they might have to re-sign Mitch Marner out of necessity just to keep him as an asset. And then that can create a whole other bunch of problems. So it's going to be a really, really interesting summer, but it's fun that the Leafs got a new head coach. And it looks like moves are imminent. They're coming.
Yeah, now the question is, you actually mentioned a very good point. Now that they hire Craig Berube, I mean, the question is, maybe Berube will have, and he definitely will have, input on who they want to move. Maybe he wants them to try to move Mitch Marner with the no-move clause. Maybe he wants them to try to move, whether it's John Tavares, whether it's upgrading their defense. And you can see here that the Leafs are expected to undergo a defensive overhaul along with notable roster changes likely this summer, which is we knew anyways. But Berube is obviously a different type of coach than Sheldon Keefe in the sense of maybe he'll want a different look. And and I'm sure by watching the Leafs, whether it was as a coach with the Blues, as an analyst, he probably knows what's working. I'm sure he's one of the first ones who doesn't want to try to really run it back with the exact same core four and then get scolded when they lose and then the coach gets fired and the whole thing, the circle keeps going. So it's a very good point you made there. I think they do make a change, or at least try to. I think Mitch Marner will ultimately waive his no move clause. Move his no move clause, yeah, it works too. And I think that what are your thoughts on this? So it seems like they're going to make a defensive overhaul, and we still don't know who the assistant coaches are right now. I guess we can say they're the same as of the time of recording, which is on late Friday. So if that's changed by Saturday, which probably isn't, and that's interesting. But we don't really know what they're going to do with the defense. I don't think it was horrible last year. I also don't think it was Stanley Cup caliber. Obviously, Joel Edmondson was a great addition. Morgan Riley's a solid guy. But other than that, Benoit, you don't have too many regarding blue line players that could be locks going forward. And I could see them really pushing hard, especially with Craig Berube now coaching.
Yeah, they're moving they're moving on from a lot of free agents, and I think it's going to be interesting to see who's the assistant coach as well, because they're going to play a part into this as well. But the Leafs have a lot of third pairing defensemen, so they have some pieces, but they clearly need to rejig and rethink that entire defensive core. Because like you said, it wasn't bad. It really wasn't, but it's very bare bones. It's not a Stanley Cup winning back end. So they're going to have to refigure how they think about that back end and the personnel on it. And it's going to start this summer. It's going to start very soon. I think they're going to be very open to trades and restructuring the entire salary cap of the team, because they're going to have to. They absolutely have to. So I expect the Leafs defense, because Brad Treliving has been talking about it for since he got here that the back end needs upgrades, but he was kind of handcuffed earlier in the season. And even at the trade deadline, they didn't want to, go all in on something, even though they added some good pieces, like I said. But I would expect the Leafs back end to look very different next year, and maybe not all the goaltending, but I think they're going to run 3 goaltenders as well. So that it's all going to play into it.
Yeah, and it also depends on what they get for Mitch Marner, because that could fix and get. I mean, a Mitch Marner trade could overhaul the defense in itself. It could overhaul the goaltending situation in itself. There's another video for you guys that's coming out. Like, a lot of these things are impending and pending on other moves happening, specifically regarding the core four, now that the coach has been figured out. You can see this from an article. It's a team that cares more about who they face and who they are. It's a team that cares more about getting scored on than actually scoring. It's a team that lets the game come, and this has now changed. Darius is now changed with, hopefully will change with Berube, hopefully will change with the core four being different if they can make the moves, and it kind of goes to show, like, fans are fed up with it. Other teams, you look back at the Matthew Tkachuk thing he said, which kind of seems like an ages ago, long time ago. It wasn't that long ago. It was right after the Leafs got eliminated. Those things and those days are hopefully over, and teams are going to start to fear the Leafs again. It doesn't really matter to the Leafs that teams fear them. What matters is how good they are as a team. But it's gotten to the point now where it's become a bit of like a joke. And a guy like Matt Roy would be an interesting one to target. And these overhauls can happen. It's going to be interesting to see how they go about handling this. But moves are absolutely coming in. And there's a lot of ways they can maneuver this. It's just that is sometimes a penalty and a bad thing in itself when you have this many moving pieces, because it's going to be rough and hard. Not rough necessarily, but difficult for Brad Treliving to manage. And he's doing a decent job so far. He's 1 for 1 with on the fan side of things.
Yeah, definitely. And I loved everything he said at that press conference. But one thing Sheldon Keefe brought up is the fact that the personnel, there's a lot of turnover, and it's going to happen again heading into next season. So I'm a little skeptical about that, but I think it's much needed at the end of the day. You have to do it, and then you can move on to the next couple seasons with the same personnel maybe. But something really, really needs to be shaken up here. So I'm not entirely worried about that, but I wonder how much that's going to play into the Leafs' success or lack thereof next season. So moves are absolutely coming. I think it's going to come on the back end by way of trading one of the core four, and not only the back end in terms of defense. I think goaltending as well. I think they're going to look for a goaltender in that way, and it's going to be a fun season. It's going to be a different season. And hopefully it's one you can look forward to the playoffs, because things will be different. Yeah,
and it's going to be one of the crazier off seasons in recent memory for the Leafs. And again, most of it relies on this Mitch Marner trade. And we're assuming it's Mitch Marner. It could be whoever else they decide to move on from, because there's a world where Mitch Marner doesn't end up being traded. But it all stems with that. And it all started yesterday when Craig Berube was hired as the head coach, because we know now, once the assistant coach domino falls theirs, I think that's when we'll really start to get some more rumors. But they're going to take their time trading Mitch Marner and all these guys. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what you want to see. What is the one change you would do right now with the Toronto Maple Leafs now that they hired Craig Berube? And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000. We'll see you soon.